Wishing to report back to Captain Roderick, we arrived in Silverkeep again. With your skills and some luck, this threat may be surmountable yet, Captain Roderick exclaimed. We need to start venturing out to better prepare for an extended siege. A ragtag team yours may be, but you'll move fast and attract less attention. So, are we facing them ourselves? The resident artisans have managed to set up shop in the area. We'll need their expertise to give the soldiers a fighting chance. Oh, okay, sure. Let's see what these guys want. The first one we visited was June the Blacksmith. Hello there, I've got a tiny request. If you aren't too busy, of course. Well, I'm here because I want to help. If I'm busy, I won't be here. The soldiers' equipment need fixing with the constant skirmishes, but the garrison's short on materials. If you could help out in securing my old forge and its stockpile, I'd be better equipped to help the defense effort. Okay, now you're talking some sense. In the meantime, you look like you could use an upgrade yourself. I don't have much, but it'll keep you alive at least. June was very much willing to help us help her, not necessarily help her, but the whole garrison. However, since I just arrived here not that long ago, I didn't want to pay her anything just yet to get my gear fixed. So, I proceeded to talk to Barnaby the jeweler to see if he had requests of me. Traveler, I received word from the captain about you. Your assistant would be greatly appreciated. Yep, I'm here to help. I'm a craftsman without his tools, you see. I left them back in my cellar in my rush to find safe haven, as you can imagine. Sure, a very reasonable explanation. If you were to retrieve them for me, I would gladly be of service to the garrison and yourself. I look forward to your return. Okay, no problem. Another task to be done along the way. Next is Wine the Enchantress. She looked too serious for her own good, but I think that's just her resting face. Greetings, traveler. I'm currently working on a way to restore the waypoints. I'll need access to the library and its veritable trove of knowledge. Undoubtedly, it will be overrun with undead now, and it is also an inopportune time for me to leave the garrison at the moment. Sure, leave everything to this normal guy doing everything for you guys. If you're able to accomplish this, we may be better off yet. What can I do but accept your request? Finally, as our last stop, we visited Dana the Innkeeper. Dana's name, I run the inn here. You have supplies and energy brews to keep you out adventuring longer. Can never have enough of them. If you're inclined to, I can set you up with bed and board for the night as well. Sister Ophelia's healing may take care of your wounds, but it is no replacement for a good night's rest. And to that, I strongly agree. One can never do without sleeping. Without much deliberation, our party agreed to rest at Dana's inn for the night and venture out in the morning. On the next day, we woke up bright and early, setting out for the library first, trying to obtain the information Wine needed to restore the waypoints. We carefully stepped into the library. Rows of books were seen toppled over, and books laid strewn across the floor. I could hear the groan of undead echoing through the chambers further down. With Catherine's magic, we lit a light to guide us along the way. As we walked down the corridor, we came across the remnants of a grisly battle. The bodies of dozens soldiers lie here, drained to a husk. It seemed they never stood a chance against their attackers. Desperate for some supplies and equipment, we searched the bodies to find a tower shield and some gold. This is great for me to be able to defend my party more effectively. After equipping it, we continued on deeper into the library. Further down, we saw a bunch of blood-thirsty spiders approaching us. With all of the decrepit bookshelves on both sides, there's not much room to hide from them. So, it was time to fight. Alphonse started as usual, pulling out several blades out from his sleeves. Then, he quickly sliced at one spider while turning around on another, killing it with his most powerful attack. Catherine was quick to act as well. He struck the one Alphonse hit earlier, killing it. Then she smoked another one consecutively after, but then killing it with a debilitating bolt. I was actually kinda slow to react to it a bit, only slashing twice at a spider, and felt the need to put my shield down to set up a fortress, trying to attract their attention to myself and prevent them from attacking my party members. Unfortunately, one of the spiders shot a long-range projectile at Catherine, who couldn't avoid it because she casted multiple spells, giving her a slight burn. Another spider tried to bite Alphonse, but he was able to deflect its attacks with his blade. Then he pulled back, leaving a shadow of his former self behind, confusing the spider. Quickly he stabbed it 5 total times, but they apparently weren't deep enough to be fatal. Catherine started the cleaning up process, hammering one spider into mush, then swinging and striking another as it tried to spit at her. However, she was quick enough to avoid it. As I tried to lift up my shield, one of the spiders remaining bit at the shield, but it was reflected and met with my sword, slicing it in half. Then, not encumbered by my shield, I launched at the last spider and double slashed it to death. Relieved and relaxed after that intense fight, we saw a set of stairs downward, leading down deeper into the library. But before we went down, I decided to check out a reading chamber right across the corridor. The door to it hanged limply, its hinges melted through by either alchemy or magic. Someone had combed through the place, with various maps and charts littered across the floor. I wonder why someone would do this. Perhaps they're still around, somewhere else in the library. Curious and trying to find out what happened, we ventured down the stairs leading deep into the library. 4 skeletal corpses lied crumbled in a small alcove right below the stairs. The glint of something shiny among the bones caught my eye. I decided to investigate the skeletons, finding a single gold coin. Then I tried to search a little bit more, but the skeleton suddenly started twitching. I wanted to say that I hadn't known they would be coming alive, but who am I kidding? They're skeletons, and it's weirder that they are dead. Greed ruined me again. The corpse before Alphonse pulled out the sword from his chest and swung it at him. Being the agile person he is, Alphonse nimbly avoided the attack and quickly struck it back. Then he followed up with several stabs before pulling back, putting some distance between themselves. After we regrouped again, we noticed that the skeleton that Alphonse just struck was an elite. Its size was similar to the other skeletons, but it was much better equipped. Catherine was far away from the elite though, and she had to deal with more pressing skeletons at hand. So, she used the debilitating bolt on the marksman and then struck it to death. I was near Alphonse and noted that he needed more help with the elite. So I double slashed it and stood in front of Alphonse, taunting the skeletons, trying to protect them from upcoming attacks. And finally, I successfully taunted them. All of them attacked me and I successfully parried all of their attacks. Alphonse, after gaining his composure, faded into the shadows only to reappear before the elite and attacking him decisively. Following up, Catherine quickly moved up and used her mace to finally kill the elite. After the fall of the elite, there were only 2 normal skeletons left. Invigorated, I lunged at one closer to me and double slashed it, killing it instantly. Alphonse was too far away from the final skeleton, so he just did some preparation moves while running towards us. Catherine and I were able to kill it before Alphonse came to us. It would be actually very shameful if we didn't quickly kill this one single simple skeleton. Relieved, we lamented at our misfortune. However, we had to move on. The corridor led us to an open foyer with various reading rooms and chambers. The ground is splattered with blood and entrails, and the air is bitter cold. I felt something was off. A sign on the wall pointed to various rooms, from the closest to the furthest. I decided since we pretty much have to explore every room, might as well go from the top of the sign to the bottom. The history room was first. The chamber stored various historical texts describing the early days of Silverkeep and knowledge of the ancient Manai Empire. The shelves were dusty with cobwebs, and it appeared the history section didn't appeal to many scholars in those days. However, nothing seemed out of sort, and we turned around to head back into the foyer. Next up was the study chambers. As soon as we entered the room, a chill ran across my spine as I saw a dozen dead mages strewn across the floor and study tables, their bodies dried and shriveled. My premonition of doom grew stronger. I was quite certain that something bad would appear soon. But it was not in this room, and we returned once again back to the foyer. The storage room was next. It was a small room off to the side of the hallway. There was a shelf filled with flasks, likely concoctions brewed or experimented on earlier in the days. I tried to identify any of the mixtures to see if they could be of use. Lo and behold, with Catherine's expertise, she identified 2 bottles that contained some healing properties. As we grabbed them and tried to leave, we heard the sound of rustling papers coming from down the hall. The final room that we didn't check was the cartography room, and it seemed likely that it was coming from that room. Carefully sneaking up on the room, I peered into the chambers through the doorway. The air had then become numbingly cold, and it was getting increasingly hard to breathe. We saw 4 more soldiers lying slain on the ground. In the center of the chamber, a tall figure in the flowing robes was browsing through an assortment of maps on one of the desks. As we approached, the figure glanced over briefly at me, and I saw the rotting remnant of what was once a human face staring back. 1 second later, his gaze returned to his map, showing a distinct lack of interest at their sudden appearance. We tried to call out to him, but choked on the numbingly cold air and managed little more than a gasp. The air has become deathly frigid, and our options were running out. At last! The figure suddenly exclaimed as he pocketed the tome he was browsing. It seemed he had found what he came for. It didn't seem to us like he was on our side, and we needed to prevent him from getting away. So, weapons drawn, we stepped forward trying to stop him. None of us had noticed it until it was already too late. A line of runes etched around him suddenly flashed in response to our presence, and an explosive force threw us across the room. Faced, we failed to try to save ourselves. Fortunately, Catherine and I had our armors protecting ourselves, though we only suffered minor abrasions. Alphonse, however, took quite some heavy internal damage. It was not lethal, but still very strong. Simultaneously, the 4 bodies in the chamber started breathing unnaturally. Their spasms stopped a few moments later as their skin fell off and the reanimated skeleton corpses came to life. The mysterious figure waved with its hand, and a brilliant portal blinked into existence. As he stepped through, we heard his raspy, cackling laughter echoing throughout the chamber. Not this time, but next time for sure. We will catch you. I tried to encourage everyone and give us some flame in this deep, cold chamber as we engaged in the fight to get out of this place. Alphonse started the fight by stabbing one of the skeletons, then retreating, hoping they would follow him. However, they don't seem to fall for his trap. Catherine, taking advantage of the distraction, smacked the same skeleton right in the torso, shattering all of its bones and thus killing it. She then turned to the elite skeleton, who was definitely the leader of the group, and casted Debilitating Bolt. This aggravating magic exposed the weaknesses of the skeleton, the legs, which allowed me to lunge at it, destroying its leg straight away. I hurried in trying to kill it by double slashing it, but it was still able to swing its sword at me. Good thing I paired it with my veteran sword skills. Meanwhile, Alphonse was rushed by another skeleton, though he was able to fend it off. He pulled out a knife from his sleeves, sidestepped upcoming attacks, and struck the lead skeleton in the back. Then, with unparalleled grace, he threw multiple throwing knives all around him, dealing damage to both skeletons that are now surrounding him. Catherine came in, smote the swordsman and bashed it to death. Then she turned around and ended the elite skeleton's misery, who was teetering on the brink of death. As soon as I saw they had everything under control, I went for the final skeleton and triple slashed it down. This guy wasn't much of a threat at all, finally escaping the frozen room. We hurried to the teleporter that we saw earlier, which was able to teleport us back to the surface. We needed to get this information about the mysterious figure back to Silverkeep as soon as possible. We went straight to Vine when we arrived in Silverkeep. Traveler, I'm glad to see you returned. Yeah, we almost didn't make it. Then, without hesitation, I began recollecting our encounter with the mysterious figure. You've heard of the Manai, I presume. They were the civilization that predated us, before disappearing centuries ago. All of the technology we had built today is built upon their achievements. That's what they teach the young ones. It's likely this Rift Lord is planning something against us. But for what reason? That remains to be seen. Oh, that was a Rift Lord? No wonder he looked like that. I'll send some of the soldiers to recover what we can from the library, and I'll let you know when I have some clarity on the matter. What about what to do when we meet the Rift Lord again? I tried asking her, but she refused to respond, signaling that it's not the right time. When it is the right time, we will be dead. Even though I was frustrated, I still felt an obligation to continue helping the residents of Silverkeep and further investigate this mystery. Next, we went to the forge, helping June retrieve the trove of materials. When we arrived, the place was in disarray, with various paraphernalia scattered across the floor. As we rifled through the mess, picking up some useful things along the way, we heard a sudden noise from around back. Well, it sounded like we had some company. 3 ruffians stepped into the courtyard, holding their ill-gotten gains. One of them mentioned to his companions to hurry along. It seemed like the undead are not the only threat to the city right now. Being the good guy that I am, we stepped out, blocking their escape route down the street. They were taken aback for a moment, but then they hastily dropped their spoils and drew their weapons. "Let's teach these dogs a lesson," the leader yelled. Well, we'll see who's the dog and who's the wolf. Alphonse flashed in, picking on the smaller thug and stabbing him multiple times, killing him immediately. Catherine then started beating up the axe-wielding thug who looked a bit scarier. Still, with hit after hit, he started to look scared. Not showing any mercy, I slashed him dead. And then there was only one. It seemed like this guy was their boss. He grew very agitated with the deaths of his companions. So when I launched out at him, I felt a very strong gust of wind emanating from inside him, cutting my skins trying to force me back. However, I endured it and still pierced his leg. After that intense combat, the boss thug seemed to deflate, showing his weaker self. Alphonse, without hesitation, rushed in and finished him off. That was not too bad of a fight, but we still felt the need to rest. A few hours had passed and we somewhat rested. Our party returned to the garrison to report to June. Finally, I was able to start up the fort and repair the militia's weapons. Do we get a reward or something for our troubles? No? As we were talking, Captain Roderick walked in. "Welcome relief. In here I thought we have to resort to our fists." He was relieved. However, why do we do this for free? I guess it's for the good of Silverkeep? Well, now we can't do anything about that. So, a bit angry and agitated, we decided the best way was to keep on killing skeletons. We headed for Barnaby's shop. When we arrived at his shop, we saw signs of bandit raids from the aftermath of the invasion, leaving nothing but shattered display cases behind. The door to the cellar remained open, and there was a strong stench of the dead coming from it. As we rattled through all of the debris, we happened upon some leftover gear that were not looted by bandits. We picked everything up, not knowing if they were left by Barnaby himself or one of the bandits, and continued on. We arrived in a dimly lit chamber that seemed to be Barnaby's workroom. It seemed the undead in here have scared off any potential thieves. There are a variety of soft-lined boxes and drawers around, all containing glittering baubles. Barnaby's collection of chisels, lopes, and molds lied on the workbench in the room, and I begged them to bring them back to Barnaby. Barnaby did mention to help ourselves with anything valuable here. And so, with Catherine's deduction, we managed to pick up 2 necklaces that were quite high in value. On the way out, we tried to look for some more stuff. However, our greed did prove to be our demise once again as we encountered a group of monsters that were not the typical undead. As usual, Alphonse pulled out 2 knives from his sleeves and stabbed one spider multiple times, killing it instantly. He then turned to stab another spider beside it multiple times. I was able to follow up and quickly killed it. Following that, I slashed at the third spider, damaging it significantly. Catherine was able to follow up with her mace to smack the spider directly. It was a fatal blow. She then smote the monstrosity of a being that seemed to have grown out from the darkness. And I guess it wasn't very happy with that. It pulled Catherine to him and tried to bite her in the neck. However, she was able to struggle free with her whole body bleeding quite heavily. While Alphonse and I hammered in the monstrosity, slashing and stabbing at it multiple times, Catherine was able to heal up a bit. Not before long though, she was pulled in again, this time by the remaining spider, and she was chomped on again by the monstrosity. Well, after the fight, she would be needing a lot of healing. Finally, through our perseverance, Alphonse did the final blow by slashing the monstrosity to death. The last spider was there for us to assert our dominance as we loudly but excitedly celebrate our victory. Though before celebrating anymore, Catherine drank a bottle with healing properties that she had identified earlier. To our surprise, her wounds disappeared and she even looked a bit better than before. Wow, if only we can get our hands on those ancient recipes. Readied up, we headed out for the exit again. Suddenly, the floor gave out in front of us, opening into a small pit of cracked skulls and bloody spears. Phew, that was close. So, no real way to get around the trap, we decided to just jump across. It wasn't that large of a hole. As we unequipped our heavy armor for the jump, I felt like the correct move was for Alphonse to give us a boost so we can arrive on the other side safely. Then Alphonse can jump the gap by himself. He is definitely more nimble than us. Really? Haha, fine. It wouldn't be fair for me to leave you guys here, right? Alphonse wasn't enthusiastic about the proposal, but she still agreed nonetheless. And that was a good thing because even though I made it successfully, when it was Catherine's turn, she only made it to the edge of the hole. That was really a close one. After all of us made it out, we headed straight for the exit. Who knows what traps or monsters could appear next. We exited the workshop without any more trouble and headed back to the garrison to let Barnaby know about our success. Splendid work. With this, I'll be able to socket any piece of equipment for you, if you can find the right crafting materials. Are you not gonna explain why there's a floor trap in your workshop? Just as we were speaking, Captain Roderick came to find us again. Good work helping everyone. You've been doing good work so far. With the pressing issues out of the way, let's begin our counterattack. My men will push out our safe zone a few blocks further, but we will need your help with a key location to aid our effort. I guess I'm here to help you all the way. I am really curious about the Rift Lord himself. The city's supply warehouse has been overtaken by local gangs. If we had it, we would be better equipped to survive the siege. Why are there so many gang members in your city? If you guys are afraid of the skeletons, why aren't they afraid? Also, we will need materials in the warehouse to deal with the breach in our border walls. It's a final step to our plan to save the city. If it's a final plan, I guess I will help you one final time to secure this place. The bandits aren't usually this bold, so I suspect they have the backing of the third party. Be on your guard. Captain Roderick explained finally, exposing that not only the skeletons, but the bandits were also being controlled by another force. Even though it was the middle of the day, I decided to give our party a break and let everyone rest for a day before continuing on to completing Captain Roderick's tasks. We decided it would be best to meet up again the next day at the inn. So we started walking to check in at the inn when suddenly a figure appeared before us. Weapons were drawn quickly, but when we saw it was just an old man, we sheathed our weapons, waiting for his request. Greetings, adventurer. I'm Pierre, a spellbinder from the Citadel. I came here with the intention of performing a field studies on the phenomena of the land. And as things stand, it seems I've been given a front row seat. Your assistance will be appreciated with a particular troublesome specimen. And so, he wished to join my party. I'll bet that my party was full. Well, he'll have to wait his turn, I guess? With some questions in my mind and some leftover adrenaline from meeting the Rift Lord, we headed off to our different venues of relaxation. Finally, we're heading into the Bandits Layer and we'll take them out right now. As we descended into the lair, we heard raucous cheering and clanging of swords echoing through the corridors. The bandits must be celebrating their spoils.